Start the proceedings of the webinar today on a topic most relevant in the going of times, that is coal-based hydrogen. Very good morning to you all. I welcome you all to this webinar. We have initiated on the topic coal-based hydrogen. We are grateful to Secretary Coal, Dr. Jain, who very kindly agreed to our request to inaugurate this webinar. We have distinguished participants today. All the speakers are present. I will just say a few words about India Energy Forum. India Energy Forum was set up in February 2001. You will be pleased to know that India Energy Forum completed 20 years of its existence, and we celebrated 20th anniversary in the June 2021. India Energy Forum is a non-profit NGO set up with the mission to help evolve a national energy policy aimed at development of a sustainable and competitive energy sector in India. It is probably the only organization which champions the cause of total energy, all forms of energy ranging from coal, power, thermal, hydro, oil, gas, nuclear, renewables, all sectors of energy. Due to the COVID effect, India Energy Forum decided in the month of August 2020 to organize its flagship programs on webinar. And in September 2020, we started the first program. I am pleased to share with you that today is 27th program which we are organizing on various verticals of energy on webinar. All the programs have been well received, well appreciated, attended by very prominent experts as speakers, and last 4 or 5 programs also have been inaugurated by concerned secretary of the ministry. We are fortunate that our president, Mr. R V Shahi, takes initiative in this regard and decided that we should invite secretary of the concerned ministry always as long as possible to inaugurate the seminars which we do. As I said, our objective is to serve as an independent advocate of the industry, promoting practical solutions to issues relating to sustainable development of energy sector. Before the COVID, we were organizing physical summits on each vertical of the energy every year. In fact, we are very keen that the things should help us and improve so that we can come back to the physical summits as our programs. I am honored with the presence of Dr. Jain, Secretary Coal, who will inaugurate this webinar. I also thank Vayu Nandan for some support to us. Vayu Nandan Power Limited. With these words, once again, I welcome you all and thank you for accepting our invitation to join this webinar. We will We are, as you know, we are releasing bi-monthly our flagship magazine, Total Energy. The next issue is due on 31st of March. This publication has a circulation of over 500 experts in the field of energy, our members, consultants, various organizations dealing with energy, and concerned officials of the ministries of the concerned energy sector. Today we are fortunate to have with us very renowned and known experts in the field, and they will be sharing their thoughts. With these words, I welcome you all. We are again grateful to Secretary Cole, Dr. Jain, for his gracious presence today. Thank you very much, and hope that we'll go back after this webinar well educated on this subject. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May I now request Mr. Gautam to please.
Thank you, Mr. Bambani. Dr. Anil Kumar Jain, Secretary Coal, Government of India. Shri R V Shahi, President India Energy Forum and Former Secretary Power, Government of India. Dr. R Sonde, former Executive Director NTPC, former VP and CTO Thermax. Shri R K Malhotra, former Director General FIPI, former Chairman Director R&D IOCL. Shri P.S. Bhattacharya, former Chairman Coal India Limited. Dr. Prakash D. Chavan, Head Gasification and Catalysis Group Simfar. Shri Samir Kulkarni, General Manager Thermax. Shri U. Kumar, former CMD Northern Coalfield and Southeastern Coalfield Limited. Shri B. Bambani, Secretary General India Energy Forum, and Shri S. K. Grover, Convener Coal Group India Energy Forum. Policymakers, energy experts, coal producers, coal consumers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It is indeed a great pleasure topic of coal-based hydrogen. We are very fortunate to have very distinguished and learned panel of very eminent speakers who will express their views on this very important topic. We are very much honored to have Shri Anil Kumar Jain, Secretary Coal, as chief guest at this webinar. On behalf of India Energy Forum and on my personal behalf, I welcome Shri Anil Kumar Jain, Secretary Coal, Government of India as chief guest of today's webinar. We are very happy and feel greatly honored and privileged to have him here with us. I welcome Shri R V Shahi, President, India Energy Forum, former Secretary, Power, Government of India. He is the motivating force behind organizing such discussions on these very important and highly relevant topics of the India energy sector. I welcome all the eminent speakers, Dr. R. Kulkarni, Shri P.S. Bhattacharya, Shri R. K. Malhotra, and Shri U. Kumar, Shri Bambani, Shri Grover, and all the distinguished participants, and thank them all for taking the trouble to be amongst us. World is facing a daunting task: how to reduce emissions, keep environment clean, and limit the temperature rise with the desired target of 1.5 degrees. Due to the war between Russia and Ukraine, the world is facing a very serious energy crisis and a period of great anxiety and uncertainty. Some countries, like our neighbor Sri Lanka, are facing very grave energy and fuel shortages. We sincerely pray and hope that this issue of armed conflict and consequent human misery and energy crisis gets resolved as early as possible. Coming to the great concern of cleaner environment and keeping the climate change under check, the world is now forced to move towards net zero carbon emission. Coal, a carbon-intensive energy source, is at the center of a global debate on energy and climate change policy. In a growing number of developed countries, the elimination of coal-fired generation is a key climate change policy after the signing of the Paris Agreement under COP21. And later, very strongly debated topic of climate summit at November 2021 at Glasgow. Most of the Western countries have pledged that they will be achieving net zero carbon emission status by the year 2050. Maybe it is possible for them to achieve it on two important counts. One, they are already developed countries and their future energy requirements not likely to be as high as that of the developing countries. Also, they have other sources of more their standard of living, which involves very high per capita energy consumption. India's per capita consumption is rather low, but our total emissions are quite high, third largest contributor to the carbon emissions in the world. India is a big importer of energy, 80% of oil and more than 50% of gas. As the world is trying hard to find viable alternative energy sources, coal continues to maintain its sheen in India, China, and Asia Pacific region, and shall continue to be on the energy scene for at least next to 2-3 decades positively. International Energy Agency in a report has stated that India's dependence on coal as an energy source shall remain at least up to 2050. India, being a very big importer of energy, is in very precarious situation. Coal is the only indigenous energy fuel abundantly available in the country, and India is already importing 80% of its oil needs and also importing, in spite of huge available coal resources, over 250 million tons of coal, of which 200 million tons is thermal coal. After taking the above issue into consideration, our Honorable Prime Minister declared that India pledges to achieve net zero carbon emission by the year 2070, and India will increase its fossil fuel energy to 500 gigawatts by the year 2030. To take care of the rising need of the large developing nation, the coal production will have to increase. Today, coal production contributes 70% of the total power generation. Due to increase of the coal generation based on the renewable, the percentage share power generation will come down. But in the tonnage terms, the coal production will continue to rise for some decades to come. The coal production program for the year 2023-24 is pegged at 1 million tons, and in the future developed production is going to have rising trend, though at a slower pace, for a few decades to come. Due to the COVID pandemic, the power demand was reduced, but it has started picking up. Coal production in the month of January 2022 was 79.6 billion tons, which is 6% higher. The coal ministry is taking several initiatives to augment the coal production and coal evacuation infrastructure, including laying new railway lines under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Government of India has allocated funds for improvement of coal evacuation infrastructure, and so has Coal India Limited. The only course available for us now is to make use of coal as green as possible by taking some important policy decisions and right actions in the direction of reducing the carbon footprint of the coal combustion. Pre-coal combustion stage, India is endowed with high ash coal, and that thus the heat value of our high ash coal in the tonnage terms is low. We need to ensure to improve the quality of coal as much as possible before combustion of coal and the time of mining of coal, and further improvement the quality by washing of coal. Using washed coal for coal consumption has been accepted to be improved, have improved combustion efficiency, improved power plant economy, and thus help in reduction of carbon footprint of the power plant. Many power plant stations continue to burn raw coal of the ash percentage of level of 40 to 45%. Some mechanism has to be developed so that the power plants use better quality washed coal in all power plants. So more so in distance power stations, so that ash, which does not contribute to heat value, is not hauled to long distances, leading to wasteful expenditure and environmental degradation. There are many old power stations which have very inefficient, outdated technology and are still operating in the country and contributing to very high power cost and environmental degradation. These power plants need to be phased out as early as possible. All possible steps need to be taken that all new power stations be on the ultra supercritical technology, advanced supercritical technology too must be inducted. Utilization of such clean coal combustion technologies which reduce the carbon footprint and improve thermal efficiency of coal combustion, like coal gasification, coal to hydrogen, other technologies. Several coal gasification plants, producer gas plants are operating in the country. Honorable Prime Minister has already set a target for the coal industry for using 100 million tons of coal for gasification by 2030. GSPL installed state-of-art and the world's first DRI plant, 1.8 million tons per annum capacity based on coal gasification located in Angul, Odisha. Reliance Industries Limited, Jamnagar has 4 billion cost of 4 billion gasification project to convert coal and coke, the lowest cost fossil fuel, into gas. Reliance has 10 gasifier units in Jamnagar complex for coal to chemical production using pet coke and domestic coal. As the world is trying hard to find viable alternatives energy sources, hydrogen as a fuel is coming out to be very suitable clean energy source. It is a very versatile fuel which can be used to fulfill all energy needs in almost all sectors. Since the hydrogen has to be produced from conversion of broadly from other fuel sources, coal from Indian point of view, is a very good contender. On, on the 75th Independence Day, the Prime Minister announced a hydrogen mission. The coal is one of the important sources of hydrogen, making brown hydrogen apart from natural gas, gray hydrogen, and renewable energy, green hydrogen, through electrolysis. In case of renewable energy, green hydrogen surplus solar power is used to electrolyze water into hydrogen and oxygen. The global emphasis is on substituting liquid fuels with hydrogen as a fuel in vehicles. Storage of the surplus renewable power as hydrogen. The electric power cannot be stored at a cost-effective price. Coal is one of the important sources of hydrogen, making brown hydrogen. However, coal has not been encouraged elsewhere because of the fear that while extracting hydrogen via coal, there may be carbon emission. Almost 100% of hydrogen produced in India is through natural gas. Globally, 73 million tons of hydrogen is used for refining, ammonia making, and other pure use, and about 42 million tons is used for methanol, steel making, and other mixed uses. Most of the hydrogen produced from the coal can be cheaper and less sensitive to the imports when compared with hydrogen production through electrolysis and natural gas, respectively. Production of hydrogen from coal will have challenges in terms of high emission of, and CCU will play a very important role. However, when the carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide formed during coal to hydrogen process are trapped and stored in an environmentally sustainable manner, CCU and CCS, then the Indian coal reserves could become a great source of hydrogen. In steel making, lots of work has been done on production of steel by use of hydrogen. Our iron reduction through hydrogen is an endothermic reaction and will require a lot of heat. This heat can be generated in DRI plants due to presence of CO in syngas being produced from the coal gasification process. In the light of the above, Ministry of Coal has constituted two committees, one to oversee the program and another of experts to give guidance to the ministry. This is aimed for contributing to PM's agenda of a hydrogen-based economy in a cleaner manner. Task force constituted under the chairmanship of Shri Kumar Tiwari, Additional Secretary Coal, has the following members: Shri R V Malhotra, Director General FIPI, former Chairman and Director R&D IOCL, Project Advisor MOC, Joint Secretary level officers of MNRE, Petroleum and Natural Gas, Steel, Chemical and Fertilizer, Director level officers from Coal India, NLC, IOCL, CMPDI and SAIL. Director Technical MOC, CM Shri Prince Kumar, Member Secretary. Further, the expert committee under the chairmanship of Shri R V Malhotra, Director General FIPI, former Chairman and Director R&D IOCL. He is also the Chairman of the Petroleum Group of India Energy Forum. We'll have the following members: Shri Mukesh Kumar, Director Steel Research Technology Mission of India; Professor K.K. Pant, IIT Delhi; Dr. Anjan Ray, Indian Institute of Petroleum, CSIR, Dehradun; Director Engineers Limited, Engineers India Limited, and Director Technical MOC, Shri Piyush Kumar. Member Secretary. May I now request Shri R V Shahi, President India Energy Forum, to give his presentation. Mr. Sai, please.
Thank you, Gautam. Mr. Vambani has already welcomed all the guests. We are informed that our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Jain, has already joined. I welcome Dr. Jain on behalf of the India Energy Forum. He has been always kind. On 2 occasions in the last few months, I requested Dr. Jain to be the chief guest and inaugurate our programs, and I always got his full support. We are grateful once again, Dr. Jain, for your gesture. It has been possible for our coal vertical, which is headed by Gautam, to organize a good group of eminent researchers, professionals, technocrats to speak on this subject. This is so important. Coal is so important to us, being the most important resource, energy resource, and also available in abundance. And therefore, it is rightly deserving the most emphatic attention that without coal, if coal is minus, then where we are. So therefore, we are concerned, all of us are concerned. In the past, we have done so many events, all on energy issues, almost 25, 26 events, and most of them have conversed on how do we manage this transition. Managing transition on energy has become a challenge, not only for India, but for the whole world. Different countries have different dimensions of problems, different nature of problems, quantum of problems. We also have problems. Our neighboring countries in South Asia have problems. But there are some common issues, and there are issues specific to the countries, depending on what resources they have and what they don't have, and where they are already in terms of being provided to the masses, to the industry, to the business, the energy access. We also continue to have problems. People look at us that we are one of the large polluters because we use coal to the extent of 70% of our power generation, but they don't realize that even now our per capita emission of carbon dioxide is much, much, much less, almost 1/5 of some of the 1/5 to 1/6 of some of the very developed countries. I think our Prime Minister made very important observations, very important statements in the last COP26, and that should guide us right through 2070. How do we become net zero by 2070? And the skill will lie with all of us, the government, the people who are stakeholders in private sector, in public sector. How do we move, in what pace we move, in what directions we move in all these 30, 40 years that we reach the destination that we are trying to talk about. Quite often, people confuse destination with the way forward. They think destination is tomorrow. Tomorrow is not the destination. And it is there where managing skill and policy formulation skill will lie. I think in the last 1 year, we have tried to change our own mindset, because our own experience is that we are dedicated. Power people, coal people are so dedicated to coal-based power generation that even at this stage, it becomes very difficult to change the view. They think that perhaps business as usual will continue. It has continued for decades, and it will continue for several decades. But I think a realization with these discussions, as well as the actions and commitments at the government level, the realization is now dawning that perhaps what we thought for last 40, 50, 60 years in development of energy, perhaps we will have to change our course and revisit many of the conclusions that we had in the past. So at least in the last 1 year that we have attempted so many discussions, as I said, almost 25 plus discussions on the subjects related to energy. Some of the conclusions are very clear. One is that it will be wrong to believe that business as usual will continue. On that, whether we are coal people, we are thermal power people, we are petroleum people, we are nuclear people, we are renewable people, all of us now believe that business as usual, as in the past, will perhaps not continue, not perhaps, will not continue. Second conclusion is coal will continue to be relevant, but with fast decline in growth. Fast decline in growth. If we have experienced a growth of the order of 5-6% in the past, I think it may still grow for the next at least 25-30 years, but the growth will be of much lower dimension. I have done some analysis based on our own experience of the past. What is the global mood? What is our own government mood? And where we can or we cannot do. Based on this, I think that that analysis says, and I have written in one of the pieces based on discussions in the past, that the 70% of power generation that we have on coal today, in the next, let's say 30 years or so, by 2045, 50 or 25 years, will come down to 30%. 70% proportion may come down to 30%, and 30% of non-coal, non-fossil fuel will get to 70%. But this is percentage. Since the growth itself will happen, generation growth will happen, per capita consumption growth will happen, because we are even now at only 1200, which is less than 1/3 of the global average. So therefore, India has to be provided more energy access, more power access on per capita basis for many, many, many decades. So therefore, since there will be growth, what will be 30% based on coal will be more than what it is today. So let's not misunderstand these statistics, which I tried to calculate. I really calculated the billion units of power that will be there, let's say in 2050. And in that billion units of power, what it will be when it is 30% of coal, that figure is larger than what it is today. So at least till 2050, let us not feel depressed that coal will not be there. While this is also true that, as I said, that business as usual will not continue. But this will depend on how best and how committed we are on some of the actions that we have thought in the past, some of the discussions that we generated in the past, many of the items which just now Gautam made in his introductory remarks. The government is very committed. Some of the missions have been set up. And I think it looks more serious, much more serious than we have experienced in the past. But of course, only outcomes and only efforts will say how serious we are. Every time we say we are very serious about gasification, every time we say we are very serious about CBM, every time we say about many other things, but then in the past, this has been somewhat little disappointing. So therefore, it looks today with a declining growth, but even there, we will have to be very serious about what we have been talking. And some of the topics that we have discussed in the past relate to how do we use coal in a more environment-friendly manner, pre-combustion, post-combustion. And today we have picked up one of them. And there are missions that government has set up, and there are industries which have come forward. There are very major industrial groups in the country which have come forward on hydrogen. So hydrogen is becoming another pet fuel, but there are differing views. One extreme view about coal to hydrogen is that it's not technically and commercially viable. That is one extreme view. And that extreme view says, because I have been interacting with different type of researchers as well, that extreme view says, okay, let's move on the way we're trying to transit, but then let us have the coal deep in the earth. Beyond that, I think maybe 2070, 80, the picture will be different. That is one view. Another view is that is more optimistic, and I also feel that perhaps nothing can be said for 50 years that this cannot be done. We can't challenge the human ingenuity. Definitely many things will come out, and so many are already on the agenda, even linked to coal. But I think we should have a dispassionate analysis that when we are talking of this can be done, what we are talking at, this can be done in a viable manner. This can be done by not creating further carbon dioxide. How do we capture that carbon dioxide? This subject also has been on the agenda for a long time, carbon capture and utilization. Now it is again receiving some serious attention. So these are the issues which we need to deliberate. Not all issues in this webinar today. This webinar is focusing on hydrogen. People say water electrolysis could be better. Some people say that is not so. People say coal to hydrogen is almost an impossibility in terms of cost effectiveness. And besides, then how do we handle? Gautam also mentioned that carbon dioxide will be there. How do we handle that carbon dioxide? If we can handle that carbon dioxide, can we handle that carbon dioxide in the power station itself? So these are all related issues. And therefore, we thought, besides the policy makers, besides those who, the developers and financiers, let's also discuss with the people who are on research. Whether India is in the process of research or is India in the process of desk research? Are we organizing our research infrastructure in a manner? At least public sector and private sector so far in energy, they have not spent money, nor the budget, nor willingness to have serious research so far. This time government is more serious. Some of the public and private sectors are also more serious. So let us be optimistic. Let us hope that coal-based hydrogen will be reality, but it will handle the issue of one, cost, because for us cost is important, and second, environment. With that, I once again welcome and express my gratefulness to Dr. Jain for his inaugural address. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sai, for laying the ground for the discussions today. You, as usual, have covered the whole all verticals of the energy and their development and your perception as to how the coal will going to play a major role, because God has given us this energy and we are going to have hydrogen also as a lead from the coal. It's my honor and privilege to request our chief guest, Dr. Jain, Secretary, Ministry of Coal, to please give your inaugural address.
My regards to Mr. Shahi, Mr. Gautam, Mr. Ambani, and all the other distinguished professionals from the energy sector who are present in this forum today. Mr. Shahi mentioned that I have always taken keen interest to attend IEF's events. Well, one of the reasons for that is that presently there are very few friends of coal. So this forum is friends of coal. And my personal views, many of you probably do recall that I worked in Niti Aayog, where I was pressing all the energy sectors, and also in Environment Ministry for 2 years, where I was particularly handling the environment clearance aspects. So it's not that I change my color. I mean, I'm supposed to be loyal to the chair I sit on. But I genuinely feel the future of coal is, of course, bleak. And it must be bleak. We must work towards the demise of coal. Because at the end of the day, burning a rock and releasing the carbon which the nature has sequestered in the ground, release it into the air, where it will take, I think, 50 years or so to get assimilated or broken down, is not a way for our grandchildren and our future generations. But when is the time? Is presently the time for, let us say, some organization to say, I will not put up any more greenfield plants, thermal plants? Is it the right time to criticize the coal ministry for coming out with the auction of commercial coal blocks? Is it the time to criticize the coal ministry that you are promoting coal gasification only with a view to promoting the life of coal? So these are questions. And when is the time for all these obstacles to be generated in the way of coal is something which the ordinary man does not know. how many people know that in India's electricity mix by generation, solar is only 4% in energy terms, wind is 4%, and 2% is biomass and small hydro. So, by technical definition, only these sources are renewable. And coal-based generation, lignite, gas, these will exceed 75%. So, and India's electricity demand is growing at 5%. The year we have an economic setback, the year we have a pandemic, does not grow over 5%, and it's a cause of worry because India's growth story gets pushed back. So, ordinary man does not understand that with the 5% growth in electricity demand every year, all the sources of renewable energy put together, comprising 10%, do not have the capacity to give you a 5 percentage point increase. So that inflection point will come. That is something which modelers and competent agencies. In fact, I would request India Energy Forum to educate the policymakers and the country on this aspect, that the inflection point can only come when the electricity demand every year can be met by increase in renewable energy generation. Otherwise, it is idle talk. So let me come to today's topic, which also is music to my ears, is coal-based hydrogen. When I read about the country's hydrogen strategy, and I see it is only green hydrogen, and there is no importance given to, we cannot have blue hydrogen, which is based on gas, because there's so little gas in our country. And on LNG, we cannot, it will be too expensive. So why hasn't the country's hydrogen strategy included coal-based hydrogen is beyond my imagination. So it is only when I saw that this area was being ignored that I thought it was my duty to put forward this committee, which was informed to the House. And Dr. Malhotra will also be speaking to the forum later in the day. Now, what are the 4 or 5 salient features of my thoughts on coal-based hydrogen? Firstly, power plant end is taken to be polluting, it's taken to be, a carbon-intensive activity. Even the use of coal, even coking coal for that matter, in blast furnace and other coal in DRI processes, there are fugitive carbon emissions in those also. So if there is going to be hostility from the world and there is going to be pushback upon India, then what happens to our vast coal resources? We don't have sufficient amounts of oil and gas. We don't have nuclear fuel. The only resource which we have is something which we are being told, don't use it. And if all of you have been reading, Europe is so smart. Half of Europe is interested in promoting gas. And another half, there has been a split because they want to include nuclear and gas as green fuels. Now, what I'm trying to say is every country, every group takes its decisions, makes its roadmap on the basis of what is best for them. So similarly, my first point is that as long as we can exploit coal in a clean manner, and one of the ways of doing it, if you don't want to burn it in TPPs, then at least extract hydrogen out of it, and that will increase the value of this vital energy resource that we have in the country. The second thing which I wanted to say that, to develop any new regime, even to reform an existing regime, it takes a lot of mehnat, it takes a lot of time. I mean, look at your own, Shahi was Secretary Power. Look at the sector of coal-based generation. Ministry of Power is basically Ministry for Coal-based Power. The UMPP policy, then the linkage policy, then the pricing, tariff-based, merit order-based dispatch, all of them have taken a lot of time to evolve. I spent 5 years in petroleum, so I remember the NELP policy it underwent so many changes to make it. Dr. Kelkar was a visionary. He launched the NELP in 1997-98, but then it had to be made attractive as the times are evolving. It took so much time. The gas pipeline policy, the gas pricing policy, we thought that we will give marketing freedom. But then when after 5 years, I think in 2013, when the gas price revision came, government could not come to a conclusion very quickly. There was a Rangarajan committee, there was another committee. So for the hydrogen economy, it will take couple of years for us to come out with an attractive policy. But if you wanted to make coal-based hydrogen, it's a ready policy. You have a commercial mining policy where you can take the coal, export it, use it, sell it, consume it. So the infrastructure for evacuation of natural gas, hydrogen, it can easily be put into commingled with natural gas and it can be transported. The Urja Ganga pipeline has already come in the eastern India, and from coal bed methane blocks in Sohagpur, in Shahidol district also there is a pipeline coming up. So most of our coal bearing areas already have the infrastructure, we have the policy, and if you want to put up the plants which will generate hydrogen from coal, then we can easily come out with a policy to use our coal bearing area act lands. The land that we have in the coal mines can be deployed for that purpose. So what my understanding is that from coal to hydrogen, it can take off tomorrow. There is absolutely no hurdle. Third thing which I wanted to say was that even if ultimately, when the price of solar comes down below 2 rupees, the price of electrolyzers, etc., also comes down. Storage costs come down, storage costs for hydrogen. It may take 20, 30 years. Until then, let us use the coal-based hydrogen, establish hydrogen as a fuel. Today, if you were to tell a factory owner, कि भाई तुम hydrogen ले लो, LPG की जगह या कोले की जगह, he will be very unsure. क्या वो ज्वलनशील है, एक्सप्लोड तो नहीं कर जाएगा, उसका भाव स्टेडी रहेगा कि ऊपर नीचे होगा. There is going to be a fear in the minds of consumers. If you can establish and get rid of all those issues, phase one of country's hydrogen plan should be coal-based hydrogen. I like the approach of RIL. RIL said that we have got a lot of petcoke, जो उनकी रिफाइनरी से निकलता है. अभी हम पहले उसका हाइड्रोजन बनाएंगे और मे बी 2030 तक, when the electrolyzers, to split water on the through renewable power. In fact, I say salute to the RIL's strength that they were able to come out with it. हम लोग डरते हैं इसको कहने में. जब कंट्री की हाइड्रोजन पॉलिसी बन रही थी तो I think this should have been taken care of. But हम लोग शायद वेस्टर्न जो प्रोपेगेंडा है, I think to my mind we have to counter that and use the energy part that we have and make it a multi-pronged program. On the economics of coal to hydrogen, I also wanted to mention this. All of you are experts. आपको तो मालूम है, लेकिन आम आदमी को नहीं मालूम. पॉलिसी मेकर्स को भी जो इस सेक्टर को बिलोंग नहीं करते उनको नहीं मालूम. अब जब कोयले के भाव की बात होती है कि कोयले से हाइड्रोजन बनाना है, कोयला क्या भाव पड़ेगा. तो जैसे आप दादरी की बात करेंगे तो दादरी आते आते तो CCL का कोयला या SCCL का कोयला 5,000 रुपए का हो जाता है. लेकिन वहां अशोका में, मगध में, आम्रपाली में एंड गेवरा कुसमुंडा में तो वो कोयला 1,300 रुपए, 1,200 रुपए का है. तो और वो जो 400 रुपया जो GST लगा है क्लीन कोल सेस वाला, अगर कोयला बेचते हैं तो वो 400 रुपए लग जाता है. अगर कोई अपनी माइन लेके उस पर हाइड्रोजन का प्लांट लगाए तो उसको कोयले की बिक्री नहीं करनी पड़ेगी, कैप्टिव यूज होगा, 400 रुपए भी नहीं लगेंगे. और अगर वो अपना कोला माइन करेगा तो 1300 भी नहीं लगेंगे, बोलता 700-800 रुपए में कोला पड़ जाएगा। जितने भी हमने अभी ऑल द एमडीओ टेंडर दैट वी हैव रिसेंटली सीन, 500 रुपए 600 रुपए में एमडीओ मिल जाता है। तो मेरे विचार से इकोनॉमिक्स ऑफ कोल बेस्ड हाइड्रोजन शुड बी प्रेजेंटेड एट अ अप्रोप्रिएट फोरम। आई एम डूइंग इट। आई मीन जो बातें मैंने आपको बताई हैं सब मैं कर रहा हूँ, बट I thought I'll share it with you because that is the way the dialogue should process. That coal-based hydrogen will be at such low cost that it will be very difficult to match its competency. और यदि आपने उसके साथ CCS के बिना देखिए काम नहीं हो पाएगा। आपने भी शाही साहब ने भी CCS की बात की, CCS के बिना ये काम नहीं हो पाएगा। और हमारी जो कोल माइंस हैं वो हमारे पास 5-5 हजार 10-10 हेक्टेयर जमीन पड़ी हुई है, उसमें अगर नीचे का रिजर्वायर अलाउ करता हो या तो उसमें उसको स्टोर कर दीजिए, नहीं तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड का भी बहुत सारे यूसेजेस हैं, उसमें भी सोचा जा सकता है। तो इकोनॉमिक्स ऑफ कोल टू हाइड्रोजन इज अ बिग अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर दिस कंट्री। हमारा जो कोल गैसिफिकेशन का जो एजेंडा है, हमने 3 टेंडर तो लगा दिए, एक दानकुनी चल रहा है, एक वो महामाया माइंस है साउथ ईस्टर्न कोलफील्ड की, वो चल रही है, और एक सोनपुर बाजारी का भी 3 टेंडर तो हमारे निकल चुके हैं कोल टू गैसिफिकेशन। प्रोबेबली BHEL और कोल इंडिया का एक जॉइंट वेंचर बनने जा रहा है जो कि BHEL की टेक्नोलॉजी पर आधारित इथेनॉल बनाने का काम CCL में रांची में करेगा। अब सबसे पहले जब कोल को गैसिफाई करते हैं, आप लोग एक्सपर्ट लोग हैं, उसका कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड और हाइड्रोजन बनता है, और फिर नेक्स्ट स्टेज में हम उसको मिथेनॉल, DME, अमोनिया वगैरह बनाते हैं। उसके पहले इमीडिएटली आप हाइड्रोजन की स्ट्रीम अलग करके, तो 3 साल में जितना मर्जी हाइड्रोजन आप कोल से निकालें। तो हम लोग तो मतलब हाइड्रोजन एजेंडा इम्प्लीमेंट ही कर रहे हैं। दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच कैन बी केप्ट इन माइंड। तो एंड में मैं यही कहूंगा कि एक जरूरत इस बात की है, इंडिया ने अभी सिर्फ एक ग्रीन एनर्जी पॉलिसी, ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन पॉलिसी अनाउंस की है, जबकि ब्लू हाइड्रोजन पॉलिसी दैट इज द वन व्हिच इज प्रेवलेंट। ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन तो अभी कोई बना ही नहीं रहा है, जो विश्व में बन रही है वो ब्लू हाइड्रोजन ही बन रही है, गैस से बन रही है। इंडिया को भी एक ब्लू हाइड्रोजन पॉलिसी लॉन्च करनी चाहिए जो कि कोल बेस्ड हो और CCS हो उसके साथ। तो डॉक्टर मल्होत्रा से मेरी कल परसों ही मीटिंग हुई थी, तो शीघ्र ही अपनी रिपोर्ट फाइनल करने वाले हैं, which as soon as it out, I will request him to speak to you people and organize a forum where he can present his salient finding. So with these words, let me thank you all for leading this very important, very nationalistic agenda for our country. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jain.
Thank you, Dr. Jain. You very nicely presented how the God-given gift of energy to India, coal, can be effectively used for various parameters, particularly now hydrogen being talked about. Your vast experience and association with Niti Aayog, I'm sure, helps you to present these programs as Secretary, Ministry of Coal. Ministry of Coal is a very important ministry because it is handling the energy gift India has as coal. May I now request, thank you, Dr. Saab, thank you again for your presence and time sharing with us and presenting your thoughts. May I now request Mr. U. Kumar, member India Energy Forum, very senior member of the Coal Forum, former CMD, Northern Coalfields, to please introduce the speakers and invite them for their presentation. Floor is yours, Mr. Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Good morning, all of you. Mr. Shahi, Mr. Bhami, Mr. Gautam, Mr. Grover, the distinguished speakers of the day, Dr. Sunday, Dr. Kulkarni, and Dr. Chauhan, distinguished delegates and distinguished participants. It's really an honor being given this opportunity of talking about the theme of the seminar and presenting the the speakers of the day. They say that power is always associated with pollution, including political power. Now, whether politicians and political system are taking care of the political pollution, and they are yet to come anywhere near the solution. Our scientists have blazed through it, and they've already come to a concrete suggestion that hydrogen will be the way out. Hydrogen is not really a energy source, it's a carrier of energy. It's a carrier of huge energy. To that extent, it becomes very friendly to the environment. And the extent of pollution that coal can cause will get compensated when coal is converted into hydrogen, and hydrogen is used as the energy source. Mr. Gautam explained the situation obtaining globally, and Jain Sahab, as usual, has given a very comprehensive view of the situation. In my opinion, for India, coal as the source for hydrogen is the most economical, most appropriate, and makes tremendous lot of sense. Says rightly, the country has launched a massive program for renewables. I mean, at the recent conference at Glasgow, the Prime Minister upped the target from 450 gigawatt by 2030 to 500 gigawatt. Even today, we are almost marginally improving the target, and we are sure that 175 is the target for the current year that will be achieved. Now, what is happening in the process, that because of the off-take guidelines, renewable power is getting fully utilized, and in the process, coal power is gradually suffering. Over the last 10 years, if you look at the figures, the PLF of coal-based power has gone over generation. What really is happening, that coal-based power availability is going up, but this utilization, as it was going down, and now with additional power source, it will go down further. Now, we also appreciate, and it has been established, that renewable by itself cannot survive. Coal-based power will have to supplement it, and coal-based power will have to be kept alive, and it has got to be kept economical so that it can contribute significantly. Now, the present level of PLF at 56% or somewhere near about, I'm told that gradually coal-based power generation will become uneconomical, and it cannot sustain itself unless resort is taken to the subsidies, which is again a rather undesirable thing. So we have to take action that coal-based power remains competitive, remains active, and to that extent, this power which is available and surplus to the requirement, that can best be utilized for making hydrogen from coal. And they say that green hydrogen is very expensive, and they say that even the grey hydrogen from coal, to show exactly where hydrogen based on coal will stand, and I'm sure the calculation will show a very bright future for this hydrogen from coal. We have a very distinguished panel, very distinguished gathering. Dr. Sunday is the former executive director in TPC. Dr. Prakash Chauhan is the head of classification and calculus research group, CSIR, Central Institute of Mining and Fuel Research, and Dr. Shri Samir Kulkarni, General Manager, Thermax. I take great pleasure in introducing Dr. Sunday to you. Of course, I know that Dr. Sunday is well known for salinity, and he has been contributing very frequently to the deliberations of India Energy Forum. We have also been utilizing his services and expertise for conferences on coal. And whenever we talk about coal and related environment problems, the first person who comes to my mind is Dr. Sunday. So Dr. Sunday, I think I think that required your introduction. But since it is a done thing, I take liberty to come intrude upon your time and make his introduction. He's the formative part of his career. He was deeply involved in nuclear research, developing technology on heavy water plants, while interfacing with various scientific, academic, and research institutions. He completed his PhD during his stint at the Atomic Energy Commission in the field of isotope separation simulation sciences. He was awarded for his contribution to nuclear energy and science a gold medal during the Golden Jubilee Award in the hands of the then Prime Minister. Subsequently, after working for 23 years in atomic energy, was invited to join as executive director to develop new energy technology in the country's premier power generation company, the NTPC, and undertaking which is undertaking 25,000 megawatt of power plants to scale. During his stint there, he worked on starting new activities in clean coal technologies, which included low-grade heat conversion, energy, integrated gasification combined cycle, carbon capture and sequestration, and various technologies crucial for energy efficiency and improving the plant performance. In his current assignment as Executive Vice President and a member of the Executive Council of Thermex, his main thrust of activities is bringing innovation and enhanced knowledge in all the existing technology within Thermex, while also involved in developing new technologies in the field of energy, environment, and water. Towards that, his activities can be summarized as follows. He was Executive Director in TPC, what already talked about it. Government of Gasification Technologies, development of gasification technology, both coal gasification, coal to liquid, UGCC, biomass gasification, development of waste heat to power generation technology in the form of development and integration of organic ranking cycles, renewable technologies with a focus on solar, both thermal and PV, biomass, geothermal, developing hybrid distributed scale power plants, developing newer technologies, using advanced technologies in the field of biomass, material and system integration, of building hydrogen-based cooling technology, fuel cells, storage, hydrogen generation, etc. Now, with these qualifications, and he's the ideal fit for talking on hydrogen and coal-based hydrogen, because in my opinion, that will be the industry, that will be the technology which will save coal and which will save the nation with vast resources, natural resources. He's currently the chairman of task force constituted by NITI Aayog on production of methanol. He's also a fellow of National Academy of Engineers, and he has been awarded the Dr. Vishwasharaya Gold Medal, Dr. Homi Bhabha Gold Medal, and he's out.
Such an elaborate and generous introduction. Am I audible to all of you, sir?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll begin my presentation. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all the delegates for such a distinguished gathering that we have. And I know that I've got about 30 minutes and I'll try to cover everything in next 30 minutes. All the speakers before me, I mean, distinguished speakers have really set the stage which I think makes my delivery of speech very, very easy, because I think all the point that I wanted to make in my beginning has been done by everybody from Mr. Bambani to Shahi Saab to Gautam Saab and of course Secretary Minister of Coal. So elegantly they have made it. So it makes my daily life. But still, what I would like to request is that I will do a broad brush on this hydrogen. I will not get into too much of detail. Maybe my subsequent speakers, both Dr. Chavan and Mr. Samir, will get into the details about the flow sheeting and everything about hydrogen. But I'll still remain a little more on a broad brush about India's fascinating journey and why it is now imperative. I mean, I'm underlining that word imperative, to actually now look at this coal hydrogen. And I just want to remind here to the audience, such an august audience, when we say coal generating hydrogen is not the hydrogen within the coal matrix, but it's actually splitting water. Okay, so it's actually coal and water giving rise to hydrogen and carbon monoxide. So hydrogen comes like a water electrolysis. It comes from a thermolysis process. So I just thought that let me make it very clear that the hydrogen coming from coal is a water hydrogen. Maybe only about 8 to 9% of the hydrogen will be from the coal gasification, but the rest of it, because you're taking to a temperature of 950 degrees centigrade under catalytic condition, you are actually getting hydrogen from water. So to that extent, this kind of a debate about all the color that we're giving it is a little bit, I think, as Dr. Jain said so eloquently, is some Western concept that we are trying to brute force, put it in our society to a great disadvantage, all of us. So I think coal hydrogen becomes as green as anyone, and that's where I'm going to be making my presentation. So like all of you said, I have done my own modeling about our energy scenario for next 3 to 5 decades. Meeting the target with the climate change challenge, and there's a big gap. I don't know, the experts remaining here can explain. Today, India is consuming about 7,000 terawatt hours of total energy. Of course, 1,400 terawatt hours of electrical energy. But if you convert everything into terawatt hours, I don't want to get into kg of oil equivalent, but I thought terawatt hours would be a much better number, which Mr. Shahi will be able to kind of relate. So I thought if India is consuming 7,000 terawatt hours, my own analysis has shown that by 2050, India's energy requirement will be about 46,000 terawatt hours. So there's a basis for this, and the basis is getting onto a per capita consumption, because India is still is a work in progress. So we would need a lot of energy to reach to that particular level. And therefore, from a current 3% of the world energy requirement, India will consume about 10%, and that's an equitable energy. I think because of the 1.5 billion people, we will definitely would require a 10%, because by that time the population will be 9 billion people. So if you say that 9 billion people and we'll be 1.5 billion, I think 10% of the energy contribution will be done in India, and that will be about 46,000 terawatt hours. And I think I've done my own analysis, and I'm ready for any debate on this. So if I to now say that this will, let's do a business as usual case study. And if I say business as usual case, you see this particular red line. Today, India is emitting about 3,200 to 3,400. These are all stoichiometric requirements. 3,400 billion tons of 3,400 million tons of, or 3.4 gigatons or billion tons of carbon dioxide. Our carbon dioxide footprint will go to about 32,000 gigatons. If you go that the current mix of energy will be there, where we are saying this particular thing. So if I take this as a kind of a current stand, and if I say the next argument that I'm putting it here, that we will try to exploit maximum renewable energy. Okay, maximum renewable energy means we will get our photovoltaics and wind and repower the wind and change the photovoltaics to perovskites and hybrids and all those high efficiency photovoltaics every square millimeter in this. My own analysis is that India will only meet that particular line which I have drawn here, which is a green line, which will show what is going to be the energy that will be coming from the renewable energy. And I am just saying from the current standard, maybe some magical thing, if it happens, maybe my analysis will go for a toss. But if it is not there, which means that there's a huge gap which is required to be provided, because if you agree that India has to meet the energy requirements, it's the equity as per the global sustainable goals of UN, and therefore we need this energy. And I maximize the solar and renewable, and this is something which I've done with my modeling techniques. You see that it can meet only about 22 to 25% of the energy will come from all that powerful tool of a solar PV, which would mean that still what Shahi was so much saying, that we have a huge gap in the energy which is required to be done, and there's the green line, and therefore you will realize that there will be still substantial amount of renewable energy will come. As far as I know, energy requirement. How do you bridge the gap? I don't know. I mean, there is no single solution for that. How do you bridge the gap? Saying that somebody should reduce the energy and say that we have to go into the very ascetic way of living and reduce our energy consumption. I mean, I think that is something that argument is not going to stand, because the growth and economy and everything, GDP is going to be the major thing. So if I don't want to go into that place that we have to, over 9 billion people will reduce their energy consumption, which should be actually done. I mean, if you're talking about the global gurus that we want to have it, but if I don't go there, which is very philosophical in nature, then this energy requirement will continue to be there. So this reality that strikes us from the previous plot, that even after considering maximum exploitation of the renewable energy for India, which is growing, we will need energy from fossil. Absolutely, I think this has been said. I'm just reiterating what the points have been made by my such august previous speakers. So energy independence is a vital doctrine of our country, and we all will have to do that. I mean, we have seen this, what is happening today in all this Ukraine and Russia, and therefore it does not need a re-elaboration that we need to have energy independence. So in my opinion, what is that we need to do? And that's where I'm proposing to this audience five goals which are very, very critical. Number one, coal is our backbone, and we can last for 200 years. I mean, at the accelerated energy, even if I take the business as usual case with that 300 billion tons and 190 billion tons, whatever is on the surface, and another 200 and odd billion tons underground, so it can meet the requirements. So that is one plus point. That's a good news for us. Number two, coal has to reinvent itself in a new pathway, and that is the one that I'm going to be bringing it up. In fact, I just want to bring this and re-emphasize this point. Coal has to reinvent itself. That whole thing about untouchability of the coal because of the carbon dioxide, we'll have to go, that means coal to gas, synthesis gas, and then do the whatever that you want to do, capture at the source itself. And I'll tell you the elegance of this kind of a technology. And then hydrogen becomes an abundant carbon-free energy carrier. So this point number two is a very, very critical point. It has got that I'm converting it into a new gas, and CO2 capture at the coal gas conversion stage itself is a zero emission design. So you can always convert that and get into this. Now, when I stated these objectives, I thought as an audience like this, let me put in front of you, sirs, five goals which can meet us, also meet our whatever commitment that we are given in Glasgow. And these goals, of course, are in addition. I mean, I'm just talking about in addition, overarching goal on maximum renewable energy. So I'm not taking out of the argument that we need to maximize. I'm saying that India, with all that thing, will reach about 8,000 gigawatts of renewable energy, which whatever with a capacity utilization factor of 18%, which will meet about 25% of our energy requirement by 2050, and then of course 2070 when we are talking about the net zero. So we need to maximize that. So let me not go there in terms of what we have to do in terms of maximization. But if I agree to my argument that yes, balance has to come from coal, and that's where I'm going to be talking about it. So essentially what I'm saying is that India has to go in a clean coal technology, gasification, hydrogen, and whole lot of hydrogen-based technology. So that's a very important point that I'm making it. Hydrogen not to be used only in the ammonia or refineries or petrochemicals. Hydrogen has to become a main energy carrier, which can generate at the demand side very high energy. That means coal to hydrogen, CTH versus CTE, abandoning the combustion pathway altogether is extremely important. So the first statement that I'm making, the mindset change, what Shahi mentioned, is that we need coal, but coal, which was done 200 years back from a steam rankage cycle, has to reinvent itself into coal hydrogen. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because look at this cycle. This, I think, it should be giving us why this particular thing. I've done this analysis, my dear friends. I can again put this in front of all of you. Coal to electricity. In the current way, when I put all this fuel extraction, combustion island, power island, transmission, T&D losses, distribution, from a generation, from a cradle to grave, the overall efficiency is just about 20%. That means for every kilowatt hour that I'm receiving it in my room here, 5 kilowatt hours have to be generated and 4 kilowatt hours of carbon dioxide is emitted. And that's true. I mean, this is the problem. In fact, we are blaming unnecessarily coal. Actually, we should not blame coal. It is the way that coal was utilized because that was the cheapest way. Industrial Revolution thought that that's the best way you can do. Cost of the coal was easy, and therefore nobody bothered about efficiency. And therefore, this particular thing became a global gold, mark for converting energy from coal. And the new pathway, my dear friends, is this high efficiency pathway. I'm not bringing carbon right now. This is my goal number one, where if I'm able to convert this into a gasification, the first reason is that water is split here. You get an efficiency of 95%. So there is no problem of a second law of thermodynamics, which is coming in the previous cycle, to a high efficiency gasification. Today, the gasification that I'm working is giving us 95%. Actually, we can even recover that 5% and make it at 99%. And then hydrogen to fuel, you can convert into ammonia or dimethyl ether, you can even carry hydrogen like what many developed countries are doing. Fuel transport is not going to be, you cannot steal hydrogen like you could steal electricity, and then you use the end use energy. Fuel cells, boilers, all the end use transport. If you're able to do this and put these numbers very clearly and compare it with this, you get 45%. So I want to put this particular point to your kind consideration, because once you do it, you realize that compared to the coal to electricity, coal to hydrogen delivering 1 kilowatt hour will reduce the carbon emission by half. And that is the main importance, what we should promote to the policymakers and every arm of the society. Why coal, if it is reinventing itself, then it becomes a central energy focus for India. Now, my implicit thing is that even if you don't capture carbon dioxide, see, we have to actually shave the overshoot rather than going for a net zero right now. We'll reach there eventually by 2070, but right now the overshoot of a 5 degrees centigrade rise is to kill that overshoot, reducing the carbon emissions while not compromising our energy consumption is done by this particular process. And then the difference becomes even more when CCS is bolted onto the basic plant. So very clearly, combustion-based process and putting a carbon capture is, I think, I mean, I was working on this when I was in NTPC, is actually a fool's paradise, or I don't want to make those extreme words, but it's not going to work out. It's not going to work because you are now brought the carbon dioxide concentration so low level, and from there to capture it, the amount of penalty that you are paying it on the electricity will be of the order of 35 to 40%, and that much amount of investment is required. If FGD is going to put so much, imagine what carbon dioxide capture will do it on this thing. Whereas the carbon dioxide, I mean, if the coal is converted to hydrogen, it becomes very nice because by virtue of its pressure, by virtue of the pre-combustion, your capture is already part of the gasification process, and those details will be indicated by my subsequent speakers. I'm tempted to give you the details, but so there are two important points that I'm giving it here. One is hydrogen is from water. Number two is that high efficiency in the entire kernel. And third one is, three factors that hydrogen, I mean, carbon dioxide capture becomes like you can capture carbon dioxide like this because you've got now high pressure, your equipment are small, the cost of the hydrogen is going to be much less. So 20% becomes 35% efficiency becomes 26%, and therefore it becomes very elegant. So please, therefore, I would consider that for India, coal hydrogen, I mean, I'm making a little bold statement, is also green for India because it emits half the CO2 and capture is easy. When I put capture, I compare apple to apple, a capture from a combustion to a capture from a coal gasification. First of all, you get, because hydrogen is able to deliver end use by various other mechanisms of much higher efficiency than the electricity. And second one is that I'm able to capture the carbon dioxide. Hence, your emission of the carbon dioxide or the energy that is required for capturing carbon dioxide makes it that your carbon dioxide emission comes down dramatically by using hydrogen. And you may still emit some part of it. I think we should give that allowance. When you see zero, it is not really zero. So CTH cannot be taken out of the discussion for hydrogen economy. Though we have been talking about all these things, I strongly feel with capture or without capture, hydrogen coming from coal, I hope I'm ready for a long discussion on this, but this is the basis for us to understand. And cause, as Dr. Jain so eloquently mentioned, that hold your sir, we will be able to deliver at 150 rupees a kilo. Again, I've done that detailed analysis. If you get the coal at about 1.8 rupees to 3 rupees 50%, as Dr. Jain so said that you can get it at 0.8 rupees a kilo, I think we can get it under 100 rupees, under 100 rupees. And that's the beauty. If you get a 95% efficiency in your gasifier and getting this. So I'm making all these statements saying that, of course, this is 150 rupees. If I bolt on the carbon capture, that is where this cost may become about 240 to 250 rupees, but they are far, far, far cheaper than what you get from your electrolysis and all that aspect about what you're doing it in terms of those huge challenges of anion exchange membranes and various things. So I just want to put that if you put every factor, I'm feeling that coal reinventing itself in the form of hydrogen becomes here. But important thing, as that was also very well mentioned by Dr. Jain, Secretary, that unless, because hydrogen can be made from coal today, I mean, it's a low-hanging fruit, it can be done today. But important thing, do we have an infrastructure built for a hydrogen? So the focus should be not simply production, hydrogen as a carrier, hydrogen as a thermal energy supply for industrial users. Hydrogen, in my previous thing, when Dr. Shahi mentioned, Mr. Shahi invited me to talk about fuel cell, I said that fuel cell is a beautiful tool compared to a battery, and I'm going to be talking, sorry for this repetition, is a very important way. Hydrogen as a distributed microgrid energy generator or a hydrogen as a fuel cell for a heavy-duty commercial facilities will be just a music for this country if you are able to get abundant quantities of hydrogen coming from coal at such a low cost at the mine mouth, and then convert that into whatever that you want to do it. You can take it as a pure hydrogen, or you can get it into ammonia, or you can get it into methanol or ethanol and what have you. So this is important. So the goal one is production. Goal two is energy as a carrier. So some of these discussions, I'm sharing my presentation. It's important. Today, a hydrogen boiler gives an efficiency of 106%. I mean, you don't laugh. What is this fellow talking about? Efficiency more than 100%. Yes, 106% when you go on an LHV basis, because there is no acid dew point. You can go up to 60 degrees. Your waste, it can be as low as 60 degrees centigrade. And therefore, compared to a coal boiler, which can give about 88%, you can get 106% from a hydrogen-based boiler. So that's a beautiful way with no NOxes, no SOxes, no particulate matter, nothing. And that's why it becomes hydrogen as fuel cell. Fuel cell would require, I think we had one session on fuel cells, because you can get 75% today with a combined heating and power, because the fuel cell itself generates at 57%. They are far, far above of this ultra advanced, ultra supercritical, which are languishing somewhere around 40%. This will take you to 60% like a combined cycle at a small kilowatt scale. And therefore, a fuel cell in a hydrogen can generate with the waste heat coming for this one. And vehicles wise, absolutely fuel cell vehicle. I don't think there is any competition to a fuel cell based vehicle for India. When you're talking about the trailers and trucks and buses, intercity, where you can't be expecting to be pulling a power from the wires and charging and all that thing. Yes, in a city like it's okay, but not in this. So these things are important. Goal 3 is, of course, we can use hydrogen outside this energy also as a substitute to steel, fertilizer, refineries, as we have discussed. So this is the next one. The next fourth goal, important thing is, as I said, that pre-combustion carbon dioxide capture is as I said, चुटकी बजा के हम लोग capture कर सकते हैं. That's the power of this hydrogen generation and capturing it. I have done a lot of work, but I'm not going to be getting into the details of what is the energy penalty for a coal hydrogen to be capturing carbon dioxide? As you can see it here itself. I mean, if you see this number, this is coming from NTPC power plant. I was doing this analysis when I was the executive director of energy technologies, and this shows. And when you compare it with the things, you will realize. I mean, you don't have to do a total scientific work, but this shows the power of capture in hydrogen. Not that today we have to do. Today, let us develop hydrogen, bring that in the society, make this ubiquitously hydrogen available, and maybe 5 years later we can bolt on this. We can design the carbon capture ready hydrogen plants, and then bolt on this thing that would make it very easy to integrate. Today, to integrate a carbon capture in a thermal power plant or a blast furnace or a cement plant is absolutely, I mean, we are doing it, but it will not work it out on this thing. So this is where I'm talking about it. And the last goal, my dear audience, is CO2 conversion sequestration pathway. Yes, as again, Shahi Sahab so well mentioned, sequester biologically, sequester in a CBM. I think we should do that if the US is able to do it in getting their enhanced oil recovery and all that thing. Why not we use this? I think if you are able to generate, put your CTH plants, C2 coal to hydrogen plants near the mine mount, getting them and sequester that, so you don't even convert into any chemicals. You do it, but the problem is so big. We have to have 3,500 million tons of carbon dioxide, and conversion sequestration is the best pathway that we can do it if we are able to put it. Of course, there's a huge amount of science is to be done. What happens to the seismic problems? What happens to the cap rock? And what happens to the mineralization? So there are a lot of things which I don't want to go there, but I'm fully aware for any questions on how do we do this. So, I mean, financial aspects of issues, but I'll not get into these details in terms of finance, because see, bringing finance into this carbon conversion is a little, I would say, I mean, may I use this word perverse? Because carbon dioxide has benefited this entire world to reach this level, and today you cannot again valorize it or convert it to anything. You need to have a taxation. You need to get developed countries should now pay more carbon tax. Unfortunately, this did not find its mention in Glasgow. India and developing countries where our energy has not plateaued need to get, maybe I would say, $180 a ton of carbon dioxide. And in the poorer nations, they should actually be getting more things. So there'll be graded carbon taxation. Then only you can make carbon dioxide capture easy. I would like to kind of say, yes, the question is hinging on what is the capability for coal gasification, because gasification becomes an important part, gas cleanup becomes an important part, and that is something which I would leave it to the subsequent speakers. But I would like to tell, compared to all the imported technologies, the entrant bed, I don't know the name, we have done this, or even the fixed bed or a moving bed coming from Lurgi. I think for India's highest coal, I think there is no further debate required, and I'm willing for a debate. Fluid bed gasification becomes the best one. In that, fluid bed is a kind of a broader definition of India's highest coal gasification. Fast fluid bed becomes a very important thing, and that is where we have developed this technology. I will not go into the development. Last 10 years, I've been working before I shifted to IIT Delhi as an emeritus professor. I was working on this, and it's my kind of a thing, but I'm not taking today time on this, but this is the latest. I mean, in February, we have commissioned it. It's such a beautiful way. I think finally we have found a solution. What is the way we can get the 95% efficiency, a continuous one, 950, so you don't have to go to a high temperature and create a problem of this thing. So I am sorry, I mean, I'm not getting into the details, but the fact is that we have solved this problem. This demonstration, based on a collaborative project between IIT Delhi and Thermax, under the support of DCIT, has demonstrated India's capability to build such complex technologies. Unlike the rest, this demonstration is a classical example. What we have done, I remember 2016 when we got 50 crores of sanction from Government of India. Every component, because it's not only the gasifier, the cleanup is important. As Dr. Jain said, you are generating synthesis gas, but synthesis gas coming from a coal is a very dirty synthesis gas. It has got ammonia, it has got tar, it has got carbon dioxide, it has got mercury, it has got particle matter, has got hydrogen sulfide. So all of them, it is as challenging as this thing. And in our plant in Thermax, every element has been removed with the IP on this thing. So now this is the point to take it to a high level. I would request both Dr. Prakash want to talk on this particular thing. In concluding parts, yes, coal to methanol, coal to hydrogen, these are all the elements. These are all elements. Again, sorry, I'm not getting the details. There are about 21 elements which are integrated in our previous plant I've shown. And today we are ready to do all of this. Individually, every component is indigenized, and we have shown the power of indigenization, and therefore you can get hydrogen at under 150 rupees. So I feel that if we are looking at a hydrogen policy, yes, let renewable energy do it. It may take 3 decades. Dr. Jain said so eloquently, and I really hinging on that today, if you want hydrogen, you should do with this coal gasification. Capture carbon dioxide maybe tomorrow, and day after tomorrow we can talk about all these things to give an economy, to give an impetus for, because you capture at the source, then your carbon-free energy is available at a high efficiency, and that makes a very strong case for India to go after it. I would like to suggest one thing, because this is my favorite, that coal gasification can be integrated with using a PV power and convert it to ammonia. There's a beautiful way that we are now working. I'm working with a few international universities in IIT Delhi, whether it is known as SOEC, solid oxide electrolyzer, where I can take nitrogen, I can take carbon dioxide, I can take coal gasification coming from the coal, and then convert this into using a renewable, maybe wind or solar PV, and convert them into ammonia or hydrogen with an efficiency which is so high. And there's a most eloquent way of converting hydrogen into a beautiful thing, and converting carbon dioxide or ammonia. So you don't have to go to those Haber's process, which we are all, 2 Nobel Prizes were given to Haber-Bosch in 1913 and 1926 in chemical engineering. They are the gurus, and that's what, but today, the whole way of converting nitrogen to ammonia is very different if you want to get hydrogen from the coal and convert that through using this particular process. So again, I'm kind of giving a glimpse only. I'm not getting the details, but this is one of the important tools which we need to develop other than the gasification and the process of hydrogen utility. So conclusion, 5 goals combined might perhaps deliver a net zero for India. I'm just putting my optimism hat and saying that may be able to do this if we are able to follow these 5 goals. I will now give you my take on nature of technology, because India has got a lot of these technologies. The ways to proliferate this, carpet bomb these technologies. If India has to use that 100 million, what Honorable Prime Minister talked about it, the best option is high ash bituminous using a fluid bed gasification with a cleaning up technology, because we should not be leaving at only gasification. Gasification without cleanup is no gasification. So therefore, gasification is as important. Cleaning up is as important as gasification. Second is hydrogen boilers, hydrogen fuel cell, district heating cooling system, hydrogen fuel driven, even hydrogen as agricultural fuel medium. This is very important. Hydrogen to ammonia to meet India's fertilizer demand using SOEC. I just want these numbers, and we can have one full discussion on what is this solid oxide electrolyzer, where you can use the PV power, use coal. It's a huge hybridization to capture carbon dioxide, so that you don't have to use the hydrogen only to capture your carbon dioxide. CO2 capture technologies integrated with coal hydrogen. And of course, you can do a CBM, but today, tomorrow, if somebody comes up, and we are working on this, the beautiful way that a passive molecule like CO2 can be cut into carbon and bring back the carbon cycle, a thing which can bring all that, the circular economy. I think that's wonderful. And I'm sure there are people working. I'm working with TIFR and working on some of these new cycles where carbon dioxide and water can be converted into artificial photos. But that's a kind of I'm saying 1 decade of R&D is required, or a half a decade of R&D is required. While today, what we can do is gasification, hydrogen, use of hydrogen, and then carbon capture using this amine process. So way forward is push renewable energy. Again, this should not be taken. It's an inclusive one. renewable energy, we do it, but we realize that renewable energy can do this much, not beyond that. And people may say, oh, there could be some future. I said, show me what is that future. Maybe it is there, maybe a decade later we can review, but I don't see currently whatever that PBN is seeing India can meet, given the fact that 2% of the land mass with 17% population, we have got the luxury of a land. We are already increasing our land use compared to whatever is the availability. Hydrogen technologies, carbon capture, SOEC, photoelectric chemical process. So with this, my dear audience, sorry for a little bit fast, but I just wanted to communicate. We must learn to happily progress together or miserably perish. Man can live individually, but can survive only collectively is my Atharveda learning, which I'm following it up. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Once again, I thank profusely all of you. I learned a lot in all the speeches that came before, and I've noted down, and we can come up with a paper which is very critical, which is very important, as Dr. Jain talked about, a nationalist paper, which will meet all the obligations of this country as becoming a Vishwa Adhyapak. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you,
I've got
Dr.
one request, organizer, because I have to go back. I'm in IIT Guwahati. I have to leave about another 15 minutes. So, if any question answer, if you can take it. Sorry for this, because I told Dr. Gautam that I had to leave today because there's a one important meeting that I got at 1:30. So if I can be, I'm there up to another 20 minutes, sir. So if that can be done, I would greatly appreciate. Otherwise, I don't know. I'll share my presentation to all the people so that question answer, if it comes, I can respond to them separately over the weekend. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Sonde. Yeah, yes, Kumar Saab.
I think the spread of the knowledge, the amount of work done by Dr. Sonde is really mind-boggling. I'm dazed by the flood of opinions, flood of studies that he has presented. And it's really worth going deeper into it. I think the country has to start following the first step that he has demonstrated. And I think it's a good day for the country if we come up to the results that he has desired. And it's wonderful. It's mind-boggling, the amount of work that he has done. Very best compliments and congratulations to Dr. Sonde. And I do hope and pray that his efforts and his aspirations will be fulfilled by the industry. Now, I'll call upon Dr. Chauhan, Prakash Gandhiram Chauhan. He is Senior Principal Scientist and Head Gasification and Catalysis, Central Institute of Mining and Fuel Research, Dhanbad. He's a Bachelor of Engineering in Chemical Engineering, and he has done PhD in gasification. His work specialization is coal and biomass gasification, fluidized bed gasifier development, support to gasification industries to address issues and performance enhancement, feasibility studies in the area of gasification. The amount of work that he has done is so voluminous that it's very difficult to cover it within the short time that I'm allowed to introduce him. But major contributions are CSIR, SIMFER in the methanol economy task force, design and development of 1.5 TPD oxy-blown pressurized fluidized bed gasification pilot plant, design and development of 0.5 TPD air-blown PFBG pilot scale for gasification performance, design and development of thermogravimetric reactor, gasification potential mapping of Indian coal resource, which is very important, gasification kinetic studies for high ash Indian coal, biomass pet coke, and their blends, feasibility studies in the areas of gasification for different organizations, public institutions. He has a number of research publications. There are 25 numbers in journals, in conference proceedings 17 numbers, invited lectures 8 numbers, and books and chapters that he has authored in 2 numbers. His best publications are development of data-driven modules for FBC, artificial intelligence. He has done a lot of work on it, on modeling of high ash gasification, gasification of high ash Indian coal infant diet-bed gasifier, modeling and simulation of gasification of Indian coal, gasification of coal and biomass, petrographic and chemical reactivity assessment of Indian high ash coal with different biomass in FBC. He has handled major contracts in R&D projects like development of oxygen-enriched blown pressurized fluidized bed gasifier, coal syngas to methanol, gasification potential mapping of Indian coal, study on multi-fluid gasification performance of high ash coal, ash characteristics with respect to operational aspects of different types of gasifiers. He obtained 4 patents of the copyrights, and he has received so many honors and awards as only befits the amount of work that is done and the amount of success that he has achieved. A member of Technical Expert Committee for TFL, a member of Technical Standing Group for Indian Coal Gasification, coordinator for Ministry of Coal Resource Group, live membership of Indian Institute of Mineral Engineers, live membership Mining Engineers Association of India, and participated in the 9th European Conference on Coal Research and its Applications, held at University of Experience of Dr. Chauhan. I'm sure will be benefited by his knowledge and the amount of work that he has done through his address. I request Dr. Chauhan to please share his views and knowledge on this important subject. Dr. Chauhan.
Thank you, sir. So, thank you very much, Sonde sir, because you have already covered very important aspects related to this particular today's area. So, without wasting time, I am taking forward this discussion just by concentrating on gasification aspects directly. So, we are quite aware that Government of India's plan related to gasification consists of 2 important aspects. Mainly, one is related to utilization of commercial gasifier wherever possible, wherever low ash coal reserves are available. Already certain projects are in pipeline with this particular aspect, and parallelly important program is related to development of indigenous gasifier, mainly fluidized bed gasifier is targeted, and already several organizations are working in this area. CSR Simperies also has developed fluidized bed gasifier having capacity 1.5 TPD coal feed rate. Just now, Sonde sir has explained developments and achievements at Thermax. Parallel BHL is also working. So what should be the next roadmap or way forward to utilize these developments? I will concentrate on those aspects only. Directly, just I am sharing a few achievements at CSR Simper. We have, which is, we can say when we talk about gasification, this particular aspect is quite important related to understanding of the feedstock. Because several aspects are related to this particular exercise, mainly selection of perfect gasifier, development of matching operational philosophy, because this is not any pure form chemical, this is a mineral. So operating any gasifier, whether it is commercially proven or developing gasifier, thorough understanding about the feedstock is very much essential, not only for selection, but for operation also, to understand the operational issues, to understand, to predict the performance in particular gasifier. So we have covered certain part, mapping related part, for MCL, CCL and ECL area, and also targeted remaining area also. This is important aspect. We will discuss relevance of this particular exercise in subsequent slides. We have installed this gasification facility, fluidized bed gasification facility in 2020. And till today, we have tested coals from various mines, mainly MCL area, CCL area, having ash content up to 42%. And fortunately, we have achieved syngas composition, CO hydrogen mainly in the range of 25 to 30%, which is quite suitable, very much attractive for downstream applications, including hydrogen or various other products also. Even carbon conversion syngas yield, these figures are also attractive and quite comparable with the commercially proven gasifiers. And presently, we are in the process of installation of downstream modules for micro cleaning of the generated syngas. Yes, lot of cleaning will be required for any further processing of the utilization of the generated syngas. So, micro cleaning facility followed by CO2 removal as well as methanol reactor. These modules we are adding at the downstream, along with development of the indigenous catalyst, specifically for water gas shift reaction as well as for methanol. So these particular module we can utilize for generation of hydrogen for any application. So in today's perspective, we can concentrate mainly on gasification because this is the very essential and critical step among the whether it is generation of hydrogen or methanol, any product. After these particular achievements at pilot scale level, what should be the way forward? That is most important, we can say. So as we have discussed, thorough understanding of all the entire resources in India, coal resources from each and every mine, it is very much essential. Parallelly, as already discussed, government's plan with commercially proven gasifier, that should be taken forward because we have certain reserves with low ash content also. So without wasting time for demo scale and upscaling to commercial scale, these particular route should be taken forward so that we can compare indigenous developments and better attractive option we can take forward for further exploitation at different mines. So these particular steps should also be considered and taken forward as planned by the Niti Aayog. Another important aspect, we can say target is taking forward the developments related to PFBG to demo scale level. This is very much important aspect for utilization of coal to any value added application through gasification route. And success in this particular stage, we can say, will prompt for further steps, further actions in this direction. So to take forward this development, strong consortium between the R&D institutions, engineering houses, as well as industry partner is very much essential for demo scale development, as well as for these particular development, various options are there, various plans are there, but considering the earlier experience, pros and cons of the gasification phenomena, gasification hardware part, we can say, and processing of variety of feedstock in the gasification route, there should be a gasification related technology park where we can integrate, develop the demo scale facility, including gasification, and integrate with all the downstream as well as upstream modules, including coal crushing, screening, which is already established. There is no any issue in that part, but establishing gasification island as well as downstream islands for micro cleaning, conditioning, as well as utilization for various aspects. So there should be a systematic, we can say, gasification development park at demo scale park, we can say, where we can establish all these facilities. We can get the proven developments for upscaling to commercial level, along with successful operational philosophy to handle any feedstock, available feedstock, including highest feedstock for any specific type of gasifier, developed gasifier. It should be followed with by the integration of various polygeneration modules also, including carbon capture and utilization. But in this entire exercise, we need to concentrate on the particular important aspect. What should be the capacity of the indigenously developed fluidized bed gasifier demo plant, whether it should be commercial scale single gasifier or demo scale multiple gasifier. This is the important aspect, because since it is a new development, so certain upgradations, modifications, or similar type of things may arise. So we need to take into consideration these aspects also. So with this background, I think technology development park will be very much important. It will play important role, where it will be a complete setup, including upstream, downstream modules for cleaning, utilization, along with gasification. So mainly, though it will be a little, but investment intensive, capex opex will be more for these all these modules, because complete setup we need to develop with all the upstream downstream modules, along with dedicated manpower, utility, as well as all the type of support. So this will be comparatively capex opex intensive option, but several advantages are also there with this particular option, because this facility can be utilized for it will be dedicated for any upgradations, we can say addition or any removal of any module as per necessity, future plans, or depending upon the feedstock variations. So we can play with this facility, and all developments in this particular area can be taken forward in faster way, though certain limitations will be there, mainly investment point of view, or in this, with this particular facility, its comparison with commercial plant at single premises may not be possible, but we can go for comparison of the demo scale with commercial, which will be installed at different location. Another we can say investment point of view, attractive option may be retrofitting the current developments, mainly gasification island, with the either with we can say planned projects where commercially proven gasifier is considered. So in parallel with that gasifier, we can place these newer developments, indigenously developed fluidized bed gasifiers. At least single module we can place, and we can compare the performance, and then we can take forward for commercial exploitation. Any best suitable we can take forward for the other installations, or even we can install these new developments at any where natural gas is being utilized for either for fertilizer production or methanol production. So at those sites also, very quickly we can install these newly developed gasifiers at demo scale level, and once it will be established, operation will be established for highest coal successfully at demo scale level, this gas can be utilized for in the existing systems without requiring much
कुमार का टेलीफोन नंबर है क्या?
downstream
Pardon?
ऐसे तो ये बहुत difficult
with very minimum investment. And once we get the confidence with indigenous development, we can plan commercial level projects at different mine mouth locations with indigenous gasifier. So this is we can say the third option. So with these two options, either at commercially planned projects, say Dankuni coal complex, where shell gasifier is considered, along with methanol generation cleaning module, methanol generation module. At this particular location, we can place the this indigenously developed fluidized bed gasifier, or even we can place this gasifier at either at GNFC, RCF, or any similar type of organization. Simply, we need to install these newly developed gasifier in the nearby premises, and syngas can be utilized. So these three options are there. Yes, definitely, first option will have, in long term, it is a comparatively best suitable option, where we can subsequent development, subsequent indigenous developments can be tested at demo scale level. So indigenous gasification technology development park will be most attractive, most useful option. However, little but it will be little but capex intensive, requiring several supporting facilities, also utilities. Other two options are also there. So at the end, I just want to highlight these all these discussed points. So indigenous development is really, it will be attractive option to handle the high ash resources, mainly since fluidized bed is proven technology, we can say at this stage, pilot scale level. So we need to take forward these developments with the help of all these consortium, and engineering inputs from these current developments is quite suitable to take forward at demo scale level. CSR Simper will play important role along with other engineering houses as well as industry partners to take forward this development. Also, we can take up other activities also, including gasification potential mapping for other remaining coal fields, remaining subsidiaries of Coal India, and downstream facilities development once we achieve this installation, and we can utilize this development for hydrogen generation. Only thing is that CO2 utilization related model we need to consider, because without, as discussed by eminent speakers, without CO2 capture and utilization, hydrogen generation, I think it will.
Kulkarni, he has done his MTech in heat power refrigeration and his B mechanical engineering. He has worked as General Manager, Research and Technology Information Center, Thermax Limited. He has more than 30 years experience of R&D in heat transfer equipments, fluidized boilers, coal and biomass combustion, heaters, vapor absorption systems, fuel cells, etc. He has led a number of product development programs to commercial success and commercialization. Currently, he is advising R&D project team working on development of different mission projects in the field of energy and environment, in Research Technology Center, the Innovation Center of Thermax. We are very fortunate to have you, Dr. Kulkarni, with us. And we have overshot the allotted time by a few minutes. Probably we'll have to be a little brief so that we come back to the original schedule. Dr. Samir Kulkarni.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, and thank you, IEF, for allowing me or giving me this opportunity to make this presentation. And as said by you, I will be brief on my discussions, because there seems to be a good alignment with all the concerned people on that India should produce hydrogen from coal. So my work is more easier, and maybe I will try to substantiate their views with some numbers here. I hope the presentation, one or two slides on Thermax. For those who don't are not aware of what Thermax is doing, Thermax is $822 million company with that is almost 600,000 crores. Headquartered in Pune. We have global network in 27 countries, 14 manufacturing facilities, 10 in India and 4 global. So truly a global company with installations in about 88 countries. And what Thermax does is, okay, we serve the commercial and industrial sector of India and world with providing solutions, power related, heating or cooling or water and chemical related solutions to the industry. And we also deal with, as we provide the utilities, we also deal with the wastes produced from them regarding air pollution control, wastewater treatment, hazardous waste, and also provide the waste to energy solutions. So with this, I will just turn into the gasification topic. And I would like to briefly tell you about the a decade of experience, Thermax experience on the different gasification technologies and the associations and the partnerships that we have done with MNRE, IIT Delhi, DST, and some international EIL, Bharat Petroleum, and some international institutes like ECA in Dalman, CNRS, and other things. So we started in 2011 and have built 4 or 5 demonstration plants covering coal as well as biomass. So these are the pictures of some of these plants. We have a demonstration come pilot unit at Thermax, one which fires 1 TPD coal. Then we have one unit at 2.4 TPD pressurized fluidized bed gasification at EIL for converting coal to liquids. Then we have a pressurized fluidized bed gasifier 4 TPD at Thermax. It was sponsored by EU project and which generates syngas. And we also have a 30 TPD dual bed fluidized bed gasifier for agri residues at Washim. So our gasification portfolio is based on the fluidized bed technology, which many of the speakers have talked about, that being only suitable technology for Indian coal, because the fluidized bed technology can accept high ash coal, which is a prominently maybe 50% or more coal reserves of India are more than 35% ash, and none of the other technologies, say entrant bed or moving bed, can handle that kind of ash. Apart from handling high ash coal, the reliability of the system is also very high because they operate, the fluidized beds operate at a lower temperature than entrant bed and lower temperature and velocities, and where the ash remains as a dry ash and doesn't get converted to slag. So the abrasive nature of the India's ash leads to maintenance problems in the other technologies, whereas being operating at a lower temperature and lower velocities, these problems are not present in the system. Coal, when we use, we don't have to pulverize it. It has to be sized to say less than 6 mm. And being a very highly reactive reactor operating at a temperature above 900 degrees centigrade, the heavy tar issues which is normally present in the moving bed type of gasifier is not there. So just to summarize the comparison of coal gasification technologies, for India's coal reserve 50% or more, the fluidized bed technology is the only solution. And because of the high initial deformation temperature of the Indian coals, and we gasify, the gasifiers operate at about 1000 degrees, it gives the efficiency and doesn't result into some of the problems that faced in the entrant bed gasifiers. Yeah. So I will talk about the recent success that we achieved in from converting coal to methanol. And this is oxy-blown fluidized bed gasification with operating at high ash coal. And as mentioned by Dr. Sondev, it is everything is made indigenously from the first principles, all the cleanup and methanol, which I will talk it later. So this is a 1 TPD coal, and then currently the trials are going on this thing. So this gives the beautiful picture of the entire plant. These pictures are for the gasifier section, and along with the ash feeding, coal feeding section, ash removal section, and other things. And most of the problems associated with the ash agglomeration, the control actions, especially for the oxyblown, because it becomes very delicate to operate the system. But we have overcome all these control issues to maintain the good parameters. And ash which comes out at high temperature, also we are able to handle with the help of water-cooled screws. This is the picture of gas cleanup and the methanol reactor system. The entire, the complete elaborate process, it's like a chemical plant installed at a very small level, miniaturized chemical plant, and which is working with all this thing, which I will talk it later. Some of the results from the air-blown gasification campaigns that we had, operating at a 900 above temperatures, at a pressure, moderate pressure, and with different coals. We started with 27 to 30% ash coal, and finally ended up in about 40% coal, 40% ash coal. And recently we asked for the high ash coal, and what we have received is a 50% ash coal from the Western coal field. So imagine the problems that can be faced in the other gasification technologies, but we are able to handle these coals in the fluidized bed. We have a total system, elaborated DCS control, fully integrated, completely automized plant with, you can see the screenshot here where you have the temperatures, the fluidized bed temperatures, very uniform. Then we are having online analyzer for the continuous monitoring of the syngas that is produced. And so we have a lot of data collected, and you can see that from these plots that the temperature history, the flow history, or the composition history, that the operation of the system is very stable, and which is a very good good achievement as far as the fluidized bed gasification technology is concerned. Coming to the coal gasification, as we know that the coal gasification produces syngas, and what is the industrial use of this syngas? So it is used for the fertilizer, steel, chemical, refinery, petrochemical, but only the fertilizer, the urea production and other chemical production, and the refineries, it is used at the hydrogen, whereas the syngas itself can be converted to methanol or other intermediates for other sectors. So this is the story today, because if you look at the hydrogen demand, the last year the demand was almost 6 million metric tons, and which is expected to grow to about 14 million metric tons in 2030, and to 2050 it is expected to grow 28 million tons. So which up to 2030, it is not expected that too much of energy use will be there for the hydrogen. And you can see as on today that it is only the industrial use, where the refinery is using 44% and fertilizer 53%. And they are using natural gas and oil as a feedstock, and or naphtha for the fertilizers. Whereas once the demand goes, can we meet this demand by the renewable energy, because we only have the green hydrogen policy and we don't have a policy on the coal to hydrogen. So I just looked at few numbers here. The primary energy requirement, we are producing 1300 terawatt hours we produce from through utilities, that is mainly coal, in 2021. And if you see the pattern or the targeted renewable energy installations, last year we had 50, and this year we will achieve 175, a big jump from the installations. And in 2030, we are targeting about 450 gigawatts of this thing. Now, we have the numbers of the terawatt hours that this installed capacity can produce. But if you assume that almost 50% of this renewable energy is given for generating hydrogen, which again 50% is also a very huge number, but it shows that the with this 50% of the renewable energy, we can produce only 2.6 million tons of hydrogen this year, or in 2030, it will be 6.7 million tons of hydrogen, which is low. I mean, as the hydrogen demand is going up, renewable energy is going up, but ultimately we will be only meeting about almost 50% of the green or the hydrogen demand. So, addition to that, if we have to go to the energy independence of our country, then we'll have to shift our gears from the use of fossil fuels like natural gas or naphtha and start using coal to generate hydrogen, which is almost all the speakers in the morning have spoken about, that there is a requirement of producing hydrogen from coal. Now, just another example where if you have to produce hydrogen from the grid power, because we have the grid installed capacity, and if you use 1 million ton of high ash coal per annum to produce the hydrogen, it can generate about 90 TPD of hydrogen from that power plant, 200 megawatt power plant. But if you go through the coal gasification route, the same amount of coal can generate 125 TPD of hydrogen, and additionally, it can generate 30 megawatt of power. So you see the difference, or the difference in the efficiency, energy efficiency, that coal gasification can give over the electrolysis route. So there is no doubt that we will have to go for a hydrogen from coal. And suppose we say that in 2030, we are targeting to gasify 100 million tons of coal per annum. And if 50% of this coal is available for the deployment of hydrogen generation, then we can meet 20% of the hydrogen demand, which I specified in my earlier slides. Let us go to what is the technology availability or the preparedness of addressing this hydrogen demand. As the coal gasification is not very simple, because it produces so many contaminants which are harmful for either for the compressor or for the catalyst that is used further downstream to produce methanol, or even the hydrogen PSA plant. So we need to remove all these contaminants which are in the form of tars, ammonia, carbonyl sulfide, mercury, H2S, or CO2. And we have the basic handle on what are the target parameters if you have to achieve the maximum methanol generation. What are the H2/C ratios? What are the different S/C ratios and other things, as well as what are the parameters? What we need to work on the H2 through PSA, and probably as also suggested by Dr. Chavan, it is not a bad idea to use the existing pilot plants, let us say plant at Thermax, and you add on a module of hydrogen to see the integration of the total system and through certain project. So this is a more in detail about the different what the CO2 is already captured. The CO2 is already captured and it is ready for utilization. Here are some numbers in terms of how much hydrogen can get produced from coal. So typically from high ash coal, to produce 1 kg of hydrogen, you require about 20 to 25 kg of the coal, about 12 kg of oxygen, 33 kg of the steam. So these are some of the numbers, or some of the process flow fields that we have worked out to achieve this. Apart from the technology preparedness, you need to have all the components and the subsystems also in place. And you have air separation unit to be installed for CO2 purification. There are a lot of catalyst and guard beds. There are amine-based CO2 system, compressor, PSA system. So we are working on the the whole ecosystem of the suppliers and vendors needs to be built, and we are working on these things so that ultimately we can have the plants, the coal to hydrogen plants, which are robust and with high reliability.
Great.
So,
I think this paper is being circulated, isn't it?
Yeah, I will circulate it. Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, excellent presentation.
I have
and,
few points to be made. Can I make it in last 2 slides?
Okay.
If I can make it in
Quick about it.
yeah,
Be quick
just
about it.
summary slides, I can present it if you permit me, sir.
Please.
Yeah, sure. So the gasification of Indian high ash coal, and it is demonstrated at a full proof of concept level. Fluidized bed is the most appropriate technology. The coal to hydrogen pathways are more efficient than the Franklin cycle pathway. Indian industry is capable to conceptualize, optimize, build such plants. However, there is a lack of demonstrated integration of these complex process units with high reliability, and there is a need to support for such lighthouse projects in the future. And we also require to build a lot of ecosystem to build and robust and reliable plants. We can, as an industry, we can participate in such deliberations on the aspects of DPR, scale up, defining the policy requirements, supports, and as mentioned by the Honorable Coal Secretary, there can be a policy on the coal-based hydrogen also, and we need also to build appropriate models. So with this, I just thank you for giving me the opportunity, and back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni. Thank you. We can really be proud as a nation of all this achievement. And I'm sure that support that we are looking for will come in due course. I mean, the country is gradually becoming very conscious of it and very concerned about it. I'm sure that support will be coming. Now, the PI and former chairman and former chairman and director R&D of Indian Oil Corporation, Dr. Malhotra, you are welcome and kindly favor us with views on the subject.
Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity to be part of this webinar. And this is really interesting, actually, some of the very excellent points which have been made, and the presentations, observations, initial remarks made by Mr. Shahi and by Coal Secretary, and then very passionate presentation by Dr. Sonde, and subsequently also the sharing of thoughts by Thermex and Paraya. I think this has been a very interesting and very informative session which I have attended, and I'm very glad to be part of this. So hydrogen, as has already been said, is not an energy source, it's only an energy carrier. So we can get it from a variety of sources. And that's the beauty of hydrogen, that when we are talking about moving into hydrogen economy, you can get it from fossil sources, you can get it from non-fossil sources. Coal, oil, natural gas, all can give you hydrogen, which we are doing in our refineries to get it from naphtha or from mostly from natural gas. But you can, as we have seen, that if we are talking about energy security for this country, and we have the coal reserves, and the coal gasification technologies, as has been shown, have been developed and have become matured. Even for always, we have been talking that Indian coal is high ash coal, and that the gasification has been difficult. When I was at IOC R&D, we had put up a gasification pilot plant which was doing the co-gasification of coal, petcoke, and biomass. So biomass, if you add into coal, that's one point which I would like to make here, is that this will add the green factor into the whole scene. And biomass, which also causes pollution in our cities, particularly during the winter months, we have seen in particularly Delhi and so on. So that can also possibly be eliminated if we can. But transportation, palletization of biomass is a challenge. And if we have to, put up the plants of coal gasification near the coal heads, that would be a little challenging task. Having said that, the renewable. Yesterday we had a webinar not a webinar, rather a conference, roundtable conference in India Habitat on green hydrogen challenges and opportunities. And various participants like Dr. Anil Kakodkar, Dr. Saraswat, etc. were there. And one issue which was clearly said is that let us not provide color to the hydrogen. We talk about the policy, government policy, as Mr. Jain, the Honorable Coal Secretary, also said that the government policy is towards green hydrogen from renewables, and will not. We have heard from other participants also that we will not achieve that kind of level of green hydrogen in a foreseeable future, because renewable power, you can use it for a variety of other applications. And Dr. Saraswat was even vocal that he said that until you achieve 90% of green electricity in the grid, you cannot call that as green hydrogen, and that's not the way to go. But so let us not color hydrogen. This is the color coding which has been given by people. You get from coal, then you call it brown. You get it from natural gas, you call it gray. And when you add CCUS, you get it blue. And if renewables are there, then you get green. So let us not provide any color to hydrogen, and let us start using any kind of hydrogen which is available near the place of use, because the cost of transportation of hydrogen is many times more than the cost of production of hydrogen. So hydrogen can enable the decarbonization targets which we have. Our steel sector, we have to decarbonize our transport sector. Hydrogen is an enabler. And as Dr. Sonde also showed that coal to hydrogen in place of coal to electricity, the efficiencies do go up. And that possibly, but the cost of transportation and storage of hydrogen is more than the cost of transmitting electricity. So maybe this was an interesting factor I saw, but hydrogen can be stored. Electricity, if you have to store, you need storage of batteries, and batteries, I was glad that Dr. Sonde did touch upon that aspect, that batteries manufacturing itself is highly energy intensive. So when we are trying to reduce CO2 emissions, and on the other hand we talk about battery electric vehicles, that they will solve the problem of CO2 emissions, that's not correct, because manufacturing of batteries involves a lot of CO2 emissions, and we don't have the nickel and cobalt kind of, or lithium and cobalt within the country to manufacture a battery. So coal to hydrogen and use them in fuel cells, that's the right way perhaps to go about. The issue which our committee, Dr. Jain mentioned about it, that we have a committee which is examining the coal to hydrogen, and the issue which I had a discussion with him 2 days back, and he was very what he wanted was a clear-cut analysis of the cost of hydrogen from natural gas versus coal, with CCUS and without CCUS. So that is possibly, and when we look at international literature, we have to do it with Indian, coal price, which he has indicated, and also the kind of technologies which are available and which we are going to use. But internationally, when you see that coal to hydrogen is ranging from $1.4 per kg to $1.7 per kg. 1.7 is with CCUS, and with the steam methane reforming, it is $2 to $2.3 per kg with and without CCUS. But the gas price is very volatile at this point of time. So and we have to import it. I think the coal to hydrogen is economical, not only economical, but it provides the energy security to the country. And we have to really integrate the CCUS with this. That otherwise people will not like us to be producing hydrogen, although we have been producing electricity from coal, and we will continue to do that. And producing hydrogen should not be a problem till such time the CCUS technologies get fully developed. And this will provide us an opportunity to create the hydrogen infrastructure when we mature from gray to or brown or gray to blue or to green hydrogen. So I think the really good presentations made. I have really learned myself a lot of it from this webinar. And compliments to India Energy Forum colleagues and the coal group, Mr. Gautam and others who have put together an exciting and very knowledgeable kind of speakers and participants to speak in this. So thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malhotra. Now I call upon Mr. Parthasarathy Bhattacharya, former chairman Coal India, and Chairman Peerless, Vice Chairman Peerless Group. He has studied so closely that he has become a scientist, coal scientist. And his thought process, we'd love to hear from him. But he has always comes out with something new about which we have not talked earlier. Mr. Parthu Bhattacharya, you are welcome.
Thank you, Kumar sir. And thanks to India Energy Forum for organizing this very, very enlightening webinar. The speakers actually made out some excellent points, and it gives a new dimension. I mean, certain dimensions that makes us think in a different manner than we have been thinking. Actually, I must compliment IEF for bringing together these kind of holistic discussions around energy issues, where we have been living in a compartmentalized kind of a thing: coal, oil, gas, power, and somewhat, in some cases, a little adversarial kind of relationships. But I think these are forums where we start thinking in a more holistic and comprehensive manner. And this is very important if we have to really go through the kind of transition that we are expected to do, arising out of COP26 and all that. One aspect that comes out of COP26 and the follow-up discussions is that every country will have to have its own customized path towards reaching the net zero kind of situation. India will have its own path. The timelines have been defined, which are different from many parts of the world. Some part of the world is aiming at 2050. We are at 2070. China is at 2060, and things like that. The most important point that came out in the discussions as well, that India is a country where the energy requirement has to grow very fast. And Dr. Shonde's presentation actually showed the kind of growth that is expected. And in that growing kind of a situation, renewables will take a very long time when renewables will actually supplement or substitute thermal. Here, renewable and thermal both will grow. As Mr. Shahi made a very clear point, that 70% thermal will go down to 30%, but that 30% of a very large number will still be much more than what it is today. So that's the kind of situation we are looking at. And in that situation, what we sometimes feel is, so where is net zero? If 30% of a very large number in 2050 is going to be more coal-based power than what it is today. So where are we on the net zero route? I think today's discussion brings out very clearly that there are possibilities of reaching that kind of a net zero situation if we are using coal in a different manner. Instead of coal combustion, if we go for coal gasification. And a lot of discussions have taken place in gasification. A lot of new technologies have come up. That is very important because we need to have the right kind of technology to bring that change happen. I was a part of this Danpuri coal complex, which was basically coal gasification. And it was based on proven technologies being induced. I mean, instead of the CFRI technology which we had bought technologies from Udal Dakham, UK for coal gasification and a different technology for coal for this tar making and all that. I mean, tar cleaning and all that. But we have seen it fail in our own eyes. There could be many reasons for failure, but the point remains that we have not yet commercially succeeded in a big way as far as coal gasification is concerned. And from here to reach a level where a very substantial quantity of coal will be used in a hydrogen form is not easy. It's a long way to go. So I only expect, I mean, I'm not a person from science or technology, so I don't have many points to say, but I would like to say this much, that basically we have to trade a very careful path with a lot of effort and a lot of consistent hard work. We have to improve technology. We have to actually go through a different kind of thing where we can commercially make it viable, where coal to hydrogen could become a viable alternative. I liked the coal secretary's particular point he mentioned, that if coal in North Karanpura or elsewhere is not supplied as coal, but is converted to hydrogen and supplied as hydrogen, then possibly we can save on a couple of high costs. One is, of course, the GST compensation cess. He gave an indication that that is not likely to be applicable in case we are supplying, in case the coal company is supplying hydrogen instead of coal. So that's a good point. And then we also save on the huge transportation cost. Coal for electricity, coal travels by an average distance of about 500 kilometers. And the transport cost today, based on the high railway freight that is in place, basically to cross-subsidize passenger fare, is very high. And that makes the coal cost, coal cost very high. And if we can avoid that coal cost, then definitely creating hydrogen and making some hubs where hydrogen can be used in the place where it is produced instead of transporting over a long distance. I think that will make a solution, will really move towards a proper solution towards the greening of the whole thing. But we have to take these points very seriously. We have to examine the reasons of failure of proven technologies that were implemented earlier and what is the corrections required. Obviously, that is being done, and that's why the presentations which happened, which were on technology, they seem to be quite optimistic that it should be possible to produce a lot more hydrogen from coal. So I think I leave it at that. And it has been a very wonderful seminar, and thanks to India Energy Forum for organizing this.
Thank you, Partho. Thank you for very useful observations, as usual, of course. We will now have a question and answer session. I'll request Mr. Shahi, our chairman, our president, to kindly take up the question and answer session.
Thank you, Kumar sir. I think we have overshot the time.
Yeah.
So maybe one or maximum two, but not big comments, but any clarifications in the question answer, and then we'll close, because we have almost reaching, and the number of participants have reduced from close to 70 to less than 50 now. All right. So anyone would like to make comment? Of course, we had very wonderful comments from two very eminent personalities, Mr. Malhotra and Partha Bhattacharya. Very good points. Mr. Bami, would you like to make any point? Mr. Bami is a coal lover, so he started thermal plant with coal, so he will be pro. Yes.
Anyway, I think it is very enlightening to see, this the whole sphere of research which has been gone on, and the path is not easy. I must say that, thinking that we will know that and we will know that, all that kind of talk is no good. I think what the work is got to be done,
Okay.
and that is the basic research probably in these areas, which I thought probably were thinking we know all about it. Thank you very much.
Very good. Is Ajay Shankar around in this group? Because Ajay is one of the very strong view on coal, and one of our participant on this WhatsApp group, Dr. Varshney, he told me that for coal, the future is let it remain in the earth. Is Varshney there around?
No. He has not joined.
Okay, so then what we will do is that we will make some summarized points.
I have one point. I want to add one point.
Mr. Grover. Mr. Grover is a coal man. So coal, bolo, go ahead.
We have been talking of using high ash coal for gasification. The gas coming out, that will be lean. How they're going to upgrade, if they can do that, because I've seen CFR technology. We need to upgrade for better use. Somebody can guide me from speakers.
Okay, very good. So we had, I think one of the very involved and very elaborate discussion today, and we had the wisdom of Coal Secretary himself. And Coal Secretary himself is quite frank. He says that ultimately we will have to write the demise of coal. When I was trying to say that till 2060-70, don't be very much worried, he was saying that no, we will have to do something. So I think that is true. When I said that, because I did that analysis from various literature survey, my own understanding of the situation, and when I said that 70% will go down to 30%, but absolute million units or billion units will be more. So you will be producing, even in 2050, more power in terms of million or billion units from coal than you are producing today, because India's per capita consumption will rise to maybe 3,000, 4,000 or 5,000 kilowatt hour. But this today's program is not meant to make the coal people and the thermal power people complacent. The only danger is both these groups. I belong to power group, and many of you belong to, most of you belong to coal group. I think both of us have been very, very complacent throughout this period. And even today, I think Partha did make, while concluding, a little bit of saving thing, but he made points which makes us again feel कि चलेगा ऐसे, चल सकता है, वो नहीं होगा. In fact, we should definitely think, how do we go about today's subject? Because I am more educated on this today than I was, let's say, before the commencement of the program. Because I was myself apprehensive, how it will happen, what will happen. What has happened is that in bits and pieces, smaller organizations or medium type organizations have done a lot of efforts. But the people who should be making efforts, like coal people or power people, they have not made the effort. So economy of scale, cost of this, cost of that. While these research people and technology development people are very emphatic that it can be made economical, not coal to hydrogen as such, coal to gasification to hydrogen, and then from hydrogen, variety of uses. Hydrogen to transport, hydrogen to power, hydrogen to many, many others, hydrogen to fuel cell, distributed generation, etc., etc. So I think, to me, it appears that prima facie it is feasible, it is okay. But unless these big organizations come forward and not have too many ifs and buts right in the beginning, rather than get into this, spend some money, make economy of a scale, and then move forward. I think coal to hydrogen is coal through gasification, and from gasification you have hydrogen, and from hydrogen you have many things. You have ammonia, you have this, you have that. So I think product mix of Coal India and Coal India friends, I mean that group, sister companies or brother company, because we have so much of reserve. I have always overemphasized this point that only big reserve of energy that we have in India is coal, other than solar. And therefore we cannot forget about it. We cannot forget about it. So that means our product mix has to be not the way we have been sending along with ash content, etc., along with many other things to the power plants and to others. We should continue to do that. But in the meantime, we should try to create these product mixes depending on transport cost, this cost, that cost. Let us not take extreme examples of something will be transported through far off distances. And then power people and coal people should put together how the boiler, like he said, hydrogen boiler. So they said hydrogen boiler. Will today's boiler be fit to take hydrogen, or will it retrofit? Will tomorrow's boiler in a powerhouse will have hydrogen boilers? And these are the things, unless these big people come in, Thermax and all that, they are suppliers, I think, and even BHL should come in. Unless all these come, I think a strong recommendation to Coal India and to NTPC and the others, more or less equal to NTPC or a little less than equal to NTPC on power side, would be that this is something which is worth. One point was made very clearly, we have to evaluate that point, that water electrolysis using electricity might prove costlier than coal, gasification, and hydrogen. Now, this statement, water electrolysis from electricity, because you need double the electricity, will be costlier to produce hydrogen than coal gasification to hydrogen. Unless we give economy of a scale, that will not happen. So I think, and since you have a coal secretary who will be very supportive, and he has set up the committee, Government of India has set up the mission, I see a ray of hope in the energy sector for the coal, and particularly for the coal. I think we should all wish all the best to coal and to hydrogen in the next 5-6 years, unless that type of plan, a committed plan, Coal India, together with the full cooperation of power people, that they will also use some of the hydrogen in their boilers, etc., for which some retrofitting may be done. That might make a big difference. But if that type of commitment is not there, I would earnestly request that the rest of the ifs and buts we should forget. Even if we fail, ultimately we don't do nothing succeeds in the first go on any technology innovation. Coal India like organization or NTPC like organization is in a position to put money with a clear understanding that we might fail, when we will put again some more money to succeed. That is the way innovation happens. Any other way innovation doesn't happen. So thank you very much. It has been a very good discussion. People who have questions, they can send their questions on email, and I think authors will be requested to respond. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for your closing remarks. You covered the whole webinar in your concluding speech. I now request Mr. Grover to please propose a vote of
Short
thanks.
one.
Short ways, thank
Short
to all
one.
of you for a wonderful presentation. And it gave a lot of knowledge for all the speakers and the contributions. And I especially am thankful for Mr. Shahi because he has a motivating force to encourage all those things. He gave presentation was so charming, so lovely that it opened the floodgate of your thinking that what government is going to support you. This is something very great. And then, of course, Mr. Gautam did set up the process of how things can go on. And then I would be I'd be failing if I don't make any one main observation about Mr. Sonde, because he is the one person who gives eye-opener presentation as usual. So he has given food for thought to all of us, how we can have the process of coal to gasification to hydrogen and all those things. And a lot of job is required to be done. We can't, as Mr. Shai said, we can't sit on thinking things will happen. We have to make sure by big companies like NTPC and Coal India to work together and achieve the target. And of course, presentation by Mr. Prakash Chavan and Mr. Anil Kulkarni was also very nice. And the further addition by Mr. Malhotra and Mr. Partha Sathi, I'm thankful to all of them for their wonderful contribution and eye-opener, how we can, in a matter of time, use hydrogen as energy source, substituting, because RE can't be 100% dependent on, because effective PLF will be very low. When we need more power, it's not available. So our big industries can't depend on that. So I'm thankful, and I don't want to take much time because already we are late. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grover, for briefly summing up and proposing a vote of thanks. So this brings us to the end of this very, very important webinar.
Which was well attended. It was well attended.
Very well attended. Very well
And
attended.
the quality of the experience of the speakers. See that the way they gave the insight on this subject, because this subject is being talked about now very, very widely. Hydrogen is, I think, on the top of the fuel for the power sector and the transport.
Correct.
So thank you very much, and all the participants who continued with us. We can appreciate your patience, but I am sure you will go with a lot of knowledge, a lot of backup of your knowledge, and improving your information on this important subjects. So
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the participants. All of our efforts have brought fruit. Thank you.
Thank you.